everyone, and welcome back to our channel. For those of you that are new to our videos, I am Anne and I am one half of the Sussex Handmade Soap Company, along with my good friend and camera shy business partner Wayne, who is often busying himself away in the background while I film these videos, just like he is today, making some little moulds for me, which is great. So today I'm going to be showing you us making a Castile soap. And a Castile soap is a soap that can be made with just 3 ingredients. Those are lye, water and olive oil. You can add an optional 4th ingredient, which is sodium lactate. This just basically helps the soap to firm up quicker and be ready to unmould sooner. It is not compulsory, but it is kind of advised because it does just help the soap to just firm up that little bit quicker. You can sometimes see Castile soap as being advertised, and when you look at the ingredients you'll see that there's other oils in there as well. That is not a true Castile soap. A true Castile soap is 100% olive oil. So anything else is not actually a true Castile. There are a lot of benefits to Castile soap. It is a very mild, gentle soap. It is a great cleanser and it is good for all skin types. So if you've got acne prone, oily skin, it'll work. If you've got dry skin on the other end of the spectrum, it's also good for that. It is incredibly gentle, incredibly sensitive and incredibly just good for the skin and good at cleansing and, you know, really, really versatile. It does take a long time to cure. Some people say it can be used after 4 to 6 weeks. I wouldn't recommend it because I like to think of it a bit like a fine wine or a cheese, that it gets better with age. So the longer you leave it, the better it's going to be. So we are curing ours for 8 months after making them. I say a lot of people will say you can use it sooner. A lot of people will say cure it for a year or more. So it is down to personal preference, but we're going for around about the 8-month mark. So it does take a long time to really firm up and cure nicely. So I'm going to show you us making the soap now. I am going to put a recipe in the description. However, the recipe is going to be for a much smaller batch than we are making, because we are making a roughly £10 batch of Castile soap today. And unless you are selling soap or you've got an awful lot of friends and family that want you to make them soap, you are not going to need £10 of Castile soap. So the recipe in the description is going to be to make roughly a £2 batch, which will fill a mould this sort of size, so a little loaf mould. Anyway, that's enough waffle for now. Let's show you making of the Castile soap. So the great thing about Castile soap is that it can be made with only 3 ingredients. It can be made with only 3 ingredients. We have added an optional 4th one that I shall talk through in a moment, but you can make it with just 3 ingredients, and those are 3 ingredients that you will find readily on your high street. So you don't need to be ordering ordering in oils or fancy ingredients, because your high street should have it all. So the first ingredient we need is a lot of olive oil. We have got 3,632 grams of olive oil for this recipe, so it is a lot. And unlike any other soaps that we make, we actually use extra virgin olive oil for our Castile soap. Normally with soap I say don't use extra virgin. For one reason, it's more expensive than other olive oils. It's not really necessary, and it is a much darker colour than regular olive oil, so it is likely to possibly tint your final soap a slightly green colour. The reason that we are using it in our Castile soap is that our Castile soap only uses olive oil, so the olive oil really is the star of the show here. So we want to use the best quality olive oil, which is the extra virgin. It's also just a little bit more natural than the regular or refined olive oil, because that has gone through a process. So this is the most natural, the most pure, the highest quality olive oil that you will find. So for Castile, we use extra virgin. Any other soap, we just use regular. And then we have got the water. We just use regular tap water because our tap water is fine for soap. That can vary depending on what area you're in. You may find that your tap water doesn't work well for soap, in which case you can use distilled water, or you could even try filtering it and seeing if that makes a difference. But for us, tap water is fine and does work well. And we have got 928 grams of tap water here. And then we have got our lye just down here, and we're using 464 grams of lye. Lye you can find pretty easily in hardware stores. It's often used as a drain cleaner, so look in the drain cleaning aisle. You might also find it labelled as either sodium hydroxide or caustic soda. If you are buying from a hardware store, make sure that it is 100% pure lye or caustic soda and that it hasn't had anything added in with it. We buy ours online from a soap making supply store, so we know that ours is pure, but if you are buying it off the high street in a hardware store, just check the label, check that it is pure caustic soda and that there is nothing else added into it. The last ingredient that we are using today is this little ingredient just here. This is sodium lactate, and we have got 50 grams, which equates to roughly 8 teaspoons. Now, this is an optional ingredient. You do not have to use it to make a Castile soap. What it is a sodium salt of natural lactic acid, and it's also vegan, and it's derived from the fermentation of a sugar source. So often that is corn or beets, something like that. It is natural and vegan, so that's great. The purpose of the sodium lactate in this soap is that it actually helps the bars to harden up quicker, which means we can unmould them sooner and, start cutting them sooner. And it also does add a really nice kind of feel to the bars as well. It's a natural humectant, which means it will draw moisture to the skin. And although you can't advertise soap itself as being moisturising, sodium lactate is an agent that will help to retain moisture. So it adds a nice feel to the soap, and it also just, helps the bars to firm up much quicker than they would otherwise do. So we are predominantly using it to firm our bars up nice and quickly, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. If you don't use it, your bars will take longer to be ready to unmould and to actually chop up. So just bear that in mind. So the first step in the making of the Castile soap today is going to be dissolving our lye here into our water here. I'm going to do this off screen purely because I like to do it in my sink, which is next to a nice big window, so I can have the window open for adequate ventilation. When you are mixing lye into water, you want to have plenty of ventilation, and I like to do it in the sink purely so that if anything spills or gets knocked, it's going to go down the drain and not all over my surfaces or all over me. So I will be mixing this up off screen. When you are mixing lye, there are a couple of safety precautions. The most important ones are to wear gloves and to wear goggles, long sleeves and closed-toed shoes, just because you don't want to be getting any of this on your skin. Once you've added the lye into the water, it will heat up to, it can go up to over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, so it will get very hot. It will let off fumes, which is why you want the ventilation. So open a window if you can, put on an extractor fan and stay, far back. Don't pop your head over it to see how it's doing, because you will breathe in those fumes and they are not nice and they will irritate your throat and your lungs. So stay away from it. Stir it in nicely until the lye has all dissolved and the water is looking pretty clear. And then we tend to pop ours, as I say, in our sink, and we actually pop the cold water on and fill the cold water up to about this kind of level, so it's level with where the water is here, and that kind of helps our lye to cool down a little quicker. Again, you don't have to do that, you could just leave it sitting on your sink to cool down naturally, and if you do that, it will probably take about 40 to 50 minutes to get down to where you want it to get. We are looking for a temperature of around about 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the lye water solution today. Once it is below 130 degrees, we will be adding in our sodium lactate. Don't add the sodium lactate until the lye water solution is below 130 degrees, because it won't work if you do that. So that's plenty of chit chat on how we're going to do this. So I'm going to go and mix up this lye now, and then we're going to show you the actual making part. So I've now mixed up my lye water exactly as I described, and we have been cooling it, and it is now about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, so we can add in our sodium lactate now. And one other thing I wanted to mention about mixing your lye water is you need to be very careful about the material that your jugs are made out of. You want to either use plastic, and specifically You want high density polyethylene, which is HDPE for short, and has a recycling code of number 2. Or you want polypropylene PP, which is a recycling code number 5. We use that one, and I shall show you if I can. The camera may or may not pick it up. What you are looking for in this little triangle just here is a number 5 or a number 2. And those are going to be the best forms of plastic for mixing lye in. You can also use stainless steel. The lye will not react with stainless steel, but don't use any other kind of metal because lye will react with aluminium and it will react with other forms of metal. So you want to make sure you are either using stainless steel or one of these two kinds of plastics. And don't use glass. I do sometimes see people using glass to mix up their lye solutions. That's not a good idea, because over time the heat that is created can cause tiny little minute defects within the glass that you may not even be able to notice, but that can then cause your glass to just shatter all of a sudden. So you could be mixing up some lye and before you know it your glass has shattered, and hot burning lye and broken glass is not a combination that you want to have. So do not use glass. Stick to the recycling codes on the plastic number 2 or number 5, or a proper full stainless steel jug. They are the only materials that I personally would recommend for mixing lye in. And this is a stainless steel spoon as well that we are using. So now we've got our lye, we are going to go and pop it back into our water and allow it to cool down further to around about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's been about 20 minutes, and because we've had our lye sat in the sink with the cool water, we are now at temperature. We are at about 88 degrees for both the lye water and the olive oil, and that is Fahrenheit, not centigrade, by the way. So we are just going to add our lye water carefully into our olive oil now, and then we need to use our stick blender to bring it to a trace. And you want to watch out with Castile soap that you don't actually achieve a false trace. And what I mean by false trace is it's when the batter seems to come together, it seems to thicken, and it looks like it is ready, but in actual fact it hasn't, and the oils and water have not actually emulsified, because then it can split and you can end up with soap that just really hasn't worked. The reason it can look like it's thickening is when you're working at a lower temperature, the oils can actually start to solidify again, and it can then cause your solution to thicken. And if you're not used to soaping at a lower temperature, or you're not used to actually making soap like this, you may think you've achieved trace when in actual fact you haven't. Because we are using purely olive oil as our oil in this, it will take quite a while to come to a trace. So just be aware that you are coming to a proper trace and not a false trace. So I am just going to do a combination of stirring with my stick blender and then pulsing until we come to a nice medium trace today. So we're at a nice light to medium trace now, and I know I only showed you a very small snippet of me mixing and blending because I didn't want to bore you, but I actually spent 17 minutes with blending and pulsing and stirring this, and as you can see it is still very liquid, very thin. We have got a thin trace going on. But considering most of our soaps take, 1 to 2 minutes to actually come to a nice trace, you can see just how much longer this soap does actually take to trace up because it is pure olive oil. And this is now the point where you can add scent or colour if you want to. We're actually going to leave ours completely unscented and uncoloured, and we're doing that for a couple of reasons. The first is, if I was to add essential oils into this, I'm going to be curing these bars for a very long time, and I think by the time they were fully cured, any scent from essential oils that I added in would mostly have faded out. I could therefore scent with a fragrance oil, but considering the majority of people that like Castile like it because it is so gentle, it's so mild, it's so natural, if we go adding in fragrance oils, we're then adding in synthetic ingredients. It kind of defeats the point of having a lovely, beautiful, mild, natural product. So we shall be leaving it unscented for those main reasons. But as I said, if you wish, you can add some scent in. And colour, again, I just really like the colour that this olive oil is turning it. So we're not going to add in any further ingredients. We're not going to complicate things further. We are sticking with the pure natural beauty of the olive oil here. Now I need to get this into the mould. So today I am using our slab mould, and the reason I'm using our slab mould is pretty much because it's a mould I don't use very often at all. I don't need this mould for anything in the coming days or even weeks. And when you pour your Castile, it is not going to be ready to unmould within 24 hours like most normal soaps. The Castile is going to need to sit in the mould for at least 2 days if I have used sodium lactate, which I have, but it can easily sit in the mould for up to a week before it's even ready to turn out and cut. So I don't want to use my regular moulds because I don't want them to be out of action for up to a week. So I'm using this mould because this way I know I can get my soap poured, I can leave it for a week, I won't miss the mould, and then I can turn it out when it is firm and actually ready to be turned out rather than rushing it because I need the moulds back. That is the pure reason for using this mould today. So let's pour this gorgeous soap into our mould. And this colour is just stunning, isn't it? I love this beautiful kind of green yellow tint that we are getting. There we go, filling that mould right up as much as possible. Beautiful. I think that is absolutely stunning. We've got a very small amount left over. I might tip that into another little mould that I don't need over the coming days or weeks, but literally 1 bar's worth left in that pan, you know, so we have filled up. This mould, for reference, is about a 10-pound mould, so we are making a 10-pound batch today. So there we go. That is our Castile soap poured. I am now going to leave it, like I say, for probably about a week because I just want to make sure that I'm not rushing it, I'm not turning it out when it's not ready, and I'm not going to wreck it. So I will probably leave mine for, 5 to 7 days. Then I shall come back, turn it out, and if it's firm enough, we shall then cut it into bars. If it's not firm enough, we'll wait another couple of days, then we'll cut it into bars. But I'll show you guys all that as and when it is ready. So we are back, we have unmoulded the soap and we have actually already cut it into smaller slabs as well. I was going to show you me cutting it into smaller slabs, but to be honest that would have just been footage of me getting cross and swearing because we don't have the correct tools to actually cut that massive slab mould down. So it's done with a knife and it needs to be done in 2 sections, so we always end up with like a little floor in the centre from where the knife has been cut down one side, then come in and cut the other side, so it just wouldn't have been fun to watch. But we are now going to cut up this smaller slab, and we have 5 of these all the same size. So we shall position and then we shall cut. There we go. Still feeling pretty soft on the inside. Let's take one of these bars out and show you. So there we go, one of our bars of Castile soap. We have lost that beautiful green colour that we had. We have now just kind of got a kind of buttery yellow colour, which is still very pretty and just very kind of classic, natural and simple, which is how I like Castile soap to be. So I'm going to pop these 2 babies and their soapy siblings to one side now for 8 months to cure. It is a very long curing time. Some people do say 4 to 6 weeks, but we like to leave it longer because the longer you leave it, the more mild it's going to become, the more gentle it's going to become, and you're going to get a nicer bathing experience. It is worth noting that with Castile soap, you are not going to get masses of lovely bubbles. Olive oil soap will not produce a bubbly lather. It just does not have those properties. What you will get is a very mild, very gentle, almost creamy kind of lather. And that lather and that experience does improve the longer that the soap is left to cure, which is why we are leaving ours for 8 months. So that'll be, I don't know, where are we now? End of January, 8 months. September, October, something like that. So it's going to be a long while before they're ready. That's what I'm trying to say. If you enjoy our videos and you've enjoyed today's video, please do give us a like, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment. Let us know what soaps you enjoy making. Let us know your soapy tales and whatnot. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you fancy it, you can also view our website just here to see what products we stock. And if you wish to purchase anything, you can use our discount code here. Our February release soaps will be available from midnight on the 1st of February, which is probably 2 or 3 days from the date that this video is actually going up. So don't forget to check those out if you are interested in them. Thanks for watching today, and we shall see you on Tuesday, hopefully, for our new Tuesday uploads. Bye for now.